The twin suns of Aridus burned overhead, casting jagged shadows across the ochre desert and its thousands of thorned spheres. The silence of the wind was broken only by the soft hum of a cooling spacecraft, its engines quiet, but still hot from a tense, atmospheric descent. Near the cactus-like flora that dotted the sand like mines, a human knelt beside a wounded alien woman, her silver suit torn, her flawless lavender skin punctured by the sharp thorns she had arrogantly dismissed. Just hours before. "Don't move," said Commander Reese Calder, his voice clipped but gentle. He wrapped a polymer medical band around her arm, grimacing as more blood welled from the fresh wound. "I told you not to touch them." The alien woman, Arisha of Virelia, narrowed her luminous eyes. "I do not take orders from Terrans." "No," Reese muttered. "You just ignore their warnings and bleed for it." Despite her pain, Arisha lifted her chin in defiance. The thorn wounds were minor, maybe even insignificant to her physiology. But Reese could tell, by the slight twitch of her eye, the way her breathing came in short, shallow bursts, that something deeper was wrong, something alien, and something deadly. She had been the mission's wild card, a Varelian noble, selected for a diplomatic expedition to the uncharted badlands of Aridus, where ancient machines of war lay buried beneath the sand. The plan had been simple. Reese was to guide her and her envoys to the crash site, extract the data core, and return. But Arisha had insisted on proving herself, stepping from the path and brushing against the native flora with disdain. Flora that, according to Reese's scans, had a reactive neural defense system. "Your scans are primitive," she had said earlier that morning. "Your threats imagined. You do not understand this world," but she hadn't understood it either. Not until the thorns pulsed open and sprayed her with venom. Now, her veins shimmered faintly beneath her pale skin, veins Reese could literally see darkening. She was being poisoned by something her immune system couldn't neutralize, something not meant for her kind. "Reese," she said, faltering. "It's in my blood. I can feel it. Moving. You need a flush. We need to get back to the ship. Can you stand?" She nodded, barely. He helped her to her feet, careful to avoid pressing against her punctured side. His armor plates clinked against her soft fabric, and for a moment the tension between them shifted, grew warmer. His hand lingered on her back, her eyes flicked to his. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reese didn't answer immediately. He adjusted her arm over his shoulder, bracing her weight. "Because I told you I would. You're a soldier, not a healer. I'm a human. We don't let people die for bad decisions, not when we can help them." Arisha gave a quiet, strangled laugh, half pain, half pride. "Your kind is infuriating." "Yeah," he said. "We get that a lot." They moved slowly, navigating the desert's cruel terrain toward the ship that shimmered like a beacon in the distance. Around them, shadows shifted, long, spindly, moving with purpose. Reese's eyes narrowed. "They're coming," he said, pulling his pistol from its thigh mount. "Whatever was guarding that crash site knows you're weak now." Arisha's hand flared with faint energy, but she winced immediately. "I can still fight. You can barely breathe. Then I'll die proud." He glanced at her, lips tight. "You'll live, and you'll learn." Suddenly, the ground behind them erupted. From the sand burst a metallic predator, like a centipede made of bone and steel, dozens of needle legs glinting in the sun. It shrieked with an unnatural tone, more sonar than sound. Reese shoved Arisha down, rolling beside her as the thing lunged. He fired, a clean tri-burst, but it deflected harmlessly off the carapace. "Go for the joints," Arisha called, channeling what little strength she had into a feeble energy bolt that fizzled before impact. Reese circled the beast, analyzing the segments. The exposed rotation node, he fired again, this time into the third joint along the midline. Sparks, a screech. The creature faltered, then pivoted toward him with renewed rage. It lunged, he ducked, fired again. Another joint exploded. Arisha, teeth gritted, crawled toward a cactus plant, drawing on the residual energy it emitted. Then she did something unexpected. With a gasp, she placed both hands against the cactus and let her body sink with it. The thorns pulsed, glowed. Reese watched in shock as the energy built, then surged into Arisha's palms. She stood, wobbling, her veins now a radiant hue of violet. She raised her arm, and the sky cracked with light. A bolt of pure photonic energy blasted from her hand, hitting the creature square in its open maw. The centipede convulsed and exploded into a plume of ash and gears. She collapsed immediately after. Reese caught her. Stubborn, he muttered. Beautiful and stubborn. Her eyes fluttered open. I told you. I could still fight. He smiled. And now we've got a ship full of antidotes with your name on them. But inside, something shifted in him too. It wasn't just duty anymore. He cared. Not because she was the mission. Not because she was royalty. Because she was her. A proud warrior. An alien queen without a crown. And now, maybe his partner in a war no one yet saw coming. The medbay of the Starfang reeked of ozone and blood. Arisha lay beneath the diagnostic canopy, her chest rising and falling in rapid, uneven breaths. The Varelian toxin scrubber they had on board wasn't calibrated for alien venom of this kind, especially not one so ancient and woven with psionic feedback. Reese stood at the monitor, jaw clenched, as unfamiliar glyphs scrolled faster than the ship's translator could parse. She's not stabilizing, said Dr. Calyx over the comm, a gruff medic back on the orbiting Terran relay station. Whatever. She touched down there. It's rewriting her cells. She's still conscious, Reese said. She overloaded a centipede drone with her bare hands 10 minutes after being poisoned. That doesn't sound like cellular breakdown. It's not death, Calyx muttered. It's transformation. Reese's fist slammed into the wall beside the screen. Then tell me how to stop it. The line buzzed with silence. You might not want to, Calyx finally said. If she's tapping into the desert's native bioenergetics, those cactus organisms aren't just plants, Reese. They're part of a defense system, organic sentries. Her body may be adapting. To become what? She might be forming. A connection to Aridus. Becoming a conduit. Reese turned back to her. Arisha's fingers twitched. Her hair, once bright platinum, was now streaked with glimmers of ultraviolet. The veins on her neck glowed faintly in the dim blue light of the bay, and still she fought. Reese, she whispered hoarsely. He knelt beside the bed, gripping her hand. I'm here. You were right. About the thorns. That's one for the books. A Varelian noble admits she was wrong. I should have trusted you. He managed a grim smile. You'll get another chance. No, she whispered. I don't think I will. Before he could respond, the ship shook violently. A shrieking alert pierced the air. Incoming. Unregistered vessels. Multiple. Planetfall imminent. Reese sprinted to the cockpit, switching screens. 3 ships, sleek, dagger-shaped, were breaking atmosphere fast. Not Terran, not Varelian. Who? The hell? Arisha's voice echoed weakly from behind him. It's the Thorn Dominion. He turned sharply. You said that was a myth. It was, she said, pushing herself upright. But something on Aridus must have reawakened their scouts. I was warned, long ago, not to touch the living spines. And of course you listened, he said. She smiled faintly. Varelian pride. Reese dropped into the pilot's chair. Well, Thorn Dominion or not, they're not getting their hands on you. I'm not the target. He glanced back. Arisha's face was pale, her body still shaking, but her mind was working. They've come to harvest the seed. What seed? The energy I drew from the cactus. It's not just defense. It's a piece of the planet's AI, Matrix. I've taken it inside me. Reese stared at her. You what? I didn't mean to, she said. It bonded to me, like a key sliding into a lock. So they're coming to collect a key. No, she said softly. They're coming to kill the new queen. Reese said nothing for a moment. Then, slowly, he reached beneath the console and keyed in a sequence. A hidden drawer slid open, revealing a suit of enhanced combat armor. Sleek, plated, built for close-quarters war. I thought you said I was just a soldier, he said, donning. The first gauntlet, Arisha's glowing eyes met his. I thought I was just a noble. We were both wrong. The ship shuddered again. Reese powered up the railguns. ETA, 5 minutes. I'll buy you time, he said. We launch as soon as they breach. We keep moving. And if I lose control? She asked. He looked back. Then I'll pull you out, just like I did before. A pause. Why? She asked. His voice was low. Because I've never cared. Like this before. Not about anyone. Arisha blinked, and in that look, something passed between them. Not just warmth. Not just trust. Hope. Reese gritted his teeth. Suit up. You're not dying in my ship. Outside, in the blazing desert winds, the 3 thorned Dominion vessels slammed into the earth like daggers from the sky. Their hatches hissed open, and what poured forth was not entirely biological. Tall, sinuous beings in cracked bark-like armor, half plant, half machine, walked silently over the sand. No mouths, no eyes, just pulsating runes and rows of reactive thorns on every limb, the lead being raised a clawed limb and pointed at the star fang. Inside, Reese activated the ship's defense grid. Cannons whirred to life. Drones deployed. But Arisha stepped past him. She no longer stumbled. She no longer looked broken. Her form shimmered slightly. An aura of raw bioenergy wrapped around her limbs like a second skin. Her eyes, once soft and uncertain, now glowed, like twin stars. You sure you're ready for this? He asked, checking the magazine on his rifle. No, she said, but I'm no longer afraid. Reese nodded once, the cargo ramp dropped, and together they stepped into war. The thorned Dominion advanced like a storm with roots, silent, graceful, unstoppable. Their long-limbed war forms left no footprints in the sand, their blackened bark bodies immune to the desert's heat. Rows of thorns shimmered like obsidian under the twin suns. The air crackled with static as they drew closer, not charging, growing, as if the battlefield itself nurtured their violence. Arisha's hand extended. From her palm, veins of lavender light bled into the sand, and within seconds, thick, glowing vines slithered up from the dunes, responding to her will. I thought you said you didn't know how to use the seed, Reese muttered, leveling his rifle beside her. I don't, Arisha said, but it knows me. Then the thorned Dominion struck. One of the larger constructs leapt forward, a blur of thorns and jagged plating. Reese's plasma rifle barked once, then twice, each shot searing a hole into its chest. But it didn't slow. Arisha's vines rose like a shield, catching the impact as the creature crashed into them. For a second, all Reese saw was a tangled mass of limbs and energy. Then the beast exploded in a burst of crimson sap and bark. More came. Dozens. A wave of slicing limbs and spine-tipped spears. Reese activated his grav boots and went airborne, raining down hot fire as Arisha channeled. More of the desert through her body. The plants obeyed her, vines weaving together into living armor, wrapping around her arms, her legs, her spine, until she stood tall, regal, fierce, glowing like a desert goddess forged in pain. They fought side by side, man and queen, fire and thorn. Reese ducked a flailing limb and unloaded a burst into a soldier's throat. You holding up? Arisha grunted, thorns exploding from her wrist into another attacker. They're not just fighting, they're trying to break the bond. They're trying to unseat you. I am the seed now, she said. If they sever me, they kill Aridus. He turned to her. Then they'll have to go through me. Rhys landed hard, shield activated, just in time to deflect a massive hammer blow from a larger Dominion brute. His shoulder screamed in protest, armor. Denting, but he stood his ground. Arisha's eyes glowed brighter. She raised both hands, and the desert answered. The ground erupted beneath the Dominion's second wave, giant thorn roots spearing upward, dragging enemies below with snapping sounds and echoing screams. They're adapting, Arisha panted. Each one is smarter than the last. You said the seed is sentient, Rhys replied. Can it outsmart them? It can guide me, but not protect me. That's still your job. He grinned. Glad I'm not obsolete yet. Suddenly, the battlefield fell into eerie silence. The remaining thorns stood still, watching, and then a new figure stepped forward, taller than the rest. A flowing mantle of living moss trailed behind it. Its bark was pale as bone, its thorns crystalline, Arisha's breath caught. That's not a soldier, that's a splicer, a commander of the Dominion. Then we're in deep, Rhys said. The splicer raised its hand, and Arisha's body convulsed. The vines on her skin twitched, then recoiled. No, no, she gasped, falling to her knees. Rhys rushed to her, slapping a medstim against her neck. Arisha, she gritted her teeth. It's trying to override the bond. Rewrite my code. Make me part of their network. I thought you said you were the queen. I am. And they want a puppet monarch. The splicer walked forward slowly, not attacking, just siphoning power. Arisha's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, her fingers trembling as she struggled to hold the seed's power. Rhys looked up and saw the Dominion for what they truly were, not conquerors, parasites. Break the connection, he said. Now! I can't, Arisha gasped. It's inside me! We're one! Then let me help. He turned, running full speed toward the splicer. Rhys, no, but he didn't stop. Rhys ducked under a barrage of thorn missiles, sliding. Across the sand, he slammed into the splicer's legs, gun dropped, grabbing the thing's midsection. Energy lanced through him, pure psionic electricity, but he gritted his teeth and held on. You want the seed? He shouted. Then take me too! The splicer reached down, grabbing his throat, but that was the mistake. It touched him, and Rhys activated the neural disruptor hardwired into his armor. The surge sent both of them flying. The splicer screamed, not with sound, but through every living thing around it. Dominion soldiers collapsed. Vines unraveled. The ground cracked. Arisha, on her knees, felt the pressure lift. The bond stabilized, and then she stood, not as a victim, not as a noble, but as a queen. She walked forward, her body shedding the last remnants of doubt. Her voice echoed with layered tones, not just hers, but the voice of the seed, the planet, the soul of Aridus. You are not welcome here, she said to the crumpled splicer. It tried to rise. She raised her hand. A spear of living cactus launched. From the ground, piercing its core, the splicer shuddered, then fell still. The battlefield was quiet. The thorned, leaderless, began to retreat, dissolving into dust and drifting with the wind. Arisha collapsed to her knees. Rhys stumbled over. To her, holding his side, bruised and burnt, he dropped to the sand beside her. You okay? No, she whispered. But I will be. They sat in the bloodied sand, surrounded by the scars of battle, breathing hard. Rhys looked at her, the thorn armor still clinging to her like a second skin. You're something else. I warned you, she said. Varelians don't bend. He smiled. But you trusted me anyway. Her gaze softened. Because I had no one else who believed in me when I stopped believing in myself. He took her hand. The thorns receded. For a moment there was only silence. Then Rhys said, "They'll come back." "I know. So what now?" Arisha stood again, taller, wiser. "We prepare." The nights in Aridus were never truly dark, not with the seed alive inside her. Arisha stood at the edge of the newly sprouting oasis, watching ghost lights swirl above crystalline flowers, glowing flora she had unknowingly called forth from beneath the desert's crust. Once she would have seen this as foreign, terrifying. Now it pulsed with her heartbeat, a symbol of what she had become. Behind her, Rhys approached in silence. His armor was scorched, patched with field wraps, but his steps were steady, wary, as always prepared for the next strike. "You should be resting," she said without turning. He stopped beside her. "So should you." They shared a small smile. No humor, just tired respect. In the 10 days since the Splicer fell, no more thorned Dominion scouts had appeared. Yet Arisha felt them, lurking in the outer dust fields, regenerating, watching. The calm was false, a vacuum waiting to collapse inward. "Their hive's still breathing," she murmured. "Just wounded." Rhys looked to the horizon. "So what's your move, Your Majesty?" "I strike before they regrow," she replied. "I take the fight to the Splicer cradle. I burn their roots from the core." He didn't argue, but his silence held something else. Concern. "You still think I'm not ready," she said. Rhys hesitated. "I think you're walking into hell." "I've lived there before," she said. "This time I wear the crown." She looked at him fully then, her eyes gleaming not just with light, but with purpose. Gone was the girl torn between cultures. Gone was the weaponized puppet of a royal court. Before Rhys stood something new, something sovereign. "Arisha," he said quietly. "If you go alone, I'm not. You'll be hunted. I always have been." Rhys clenched a fist. "Damn it, Arisha. This is more than just duty. She leaned in and pressed her forehead gently to his. A pause. "Then I know." She stepped back, her fingers grazing his chest. "But if I die," she said, "I want you to live." Rhys looked down at her hand, then up at her face. Not happening. The journey to the Splicer cradle was a gauntlet of blood and dust, Arisha. And Rhys traveled aboard the Grit, their sleek, battered dropship now laced with organic systems from the Oasis. The seed had extended its essence through the ship, sinking it with Arisha's thoughts. It flew more like a living hawk now than a machine, slicing through thermals with eerie precision. They crossed dune chasms veined with glowing fungus, navigated canyons lined with withered corpses of old biowars, until at last the terrain turned gray. Dead, dry. The seed pulsed in her chest, weakly, like a heart sensing its own grave. Rhys scanned the Cradle Valley. Massive psionic interference. I can't get a read on anything past the first ridge. That's because the hive is alive, and waiting. They exited the ship. Arisha summoned a cloak of shifting bramble around her. Rhys reloaded his dual plasma blades and stepped beside her, their shadows stretching far into the bone sand. Then the cradle opened. It wasn't a door. It was an inhale. The valley yawned apart as if the earth had lips, revealing a hollow maw, pulsing with violet spores and glistening wet roots. Towers of thorn glass reached skyward, humming with energy. At the center, the new Splicer throne, empty until she arrived. Arisha walked forward. No hesitation. The seed burned. The hive screamed. They came in waves. No soldiers this time. No mistakes. These were the royal brood, the architects of extinction. Towering forms plated in living armor, with minds grown from harvested queens who had failed before her. But Arisha had something they didn't. Rhys. He moved with brutal efficiency, ducking, sliding, slicing through enemies with electric arcs, and fury. She moved beside him like a storm, her thorns unfurling into shields, spears, and wings. Where he fought with fire, she fought with blooming death. The two of them were no longer just survivors. They were a legend, made flesh. The final. Chamber opened, an impossible hollow beneath the earth. Suspended in its center, the seed core, pale, dying. Beneath it, something monstrous coiled, the mother splicer, a throne made of screaming roots. Its face split into 4 mandibles. Each finger wore a stolen crown. "You are not queen," it whispered. Through 1,000 voices. "You are fertilizer." Arisha stepped forward. "No," she said. "I am evolution." And she ran. Reese launched into the air, distracting the splicer as Arisha raised both hands and poured her soul into the seed. Every memory, every scar, every moment she refused to kneel. The seed burst, light tore through the chamber, vines exploding from every wall, wrapping the mother splicer. It shrieked, bit, tore. Reese was knocked down, pinned beneath rubble. But Arisha never stopped. The seed knew her. She was its queen, and it obeyed. With a final scream, the splicer was impaled from within. The chamber collapsed. The hive crumbled. When? Reese awoke. He was outside, buried in sand, alive, and Arisha stood above him, radiant. Crownless, but free. "You did it," he whispered. She reached down, pulling him to his feet. "No," she said. "We did. The war didn't end that day, but it turned. With the hive destroyed, the Thorn dominion began to rot. Other worlds rose up. Resistance bloomed. Arisha became more than a symbol. She became a unifier, a queen not by blood, but by pain, sacrifice, and choice. And Reese? He remained by her side, not as protector, but as partner. Epilogue. Under the twin moons of Aridus, in a courtyard overgrown with peace, Arisha sat beside Reese as flowers of light danced above them. "You once told me not to wear that collar," she said softly. He nodded. "Because you were never meant to be chained." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then stay with me. Not as a guard, not as a soldier." He kissed her temple. "I already did. Call to action. What would you sacrifice to help someone rise from the ashes of oppression? Would you stand by a queen born of thorns,